creator David Jacobs, who sadly passed away at the age of 84, died on Sunday, August 20th, at Providence St. Joseph Medical Center in Burbank. He had been battling Alzheimer's for a long time. David was famously quoted about him and his Knots Landing co-creator Michael Foreman. He said, "I wanted to do art, he wanted to do trash, and between us, we did television, and it was a beautiful partnership." David Jacobs has left us a beautiful legacy, and we owe him so much. We will miss him. Rest in peace, our beloved creator. David Jacobs, who sadly passed away at the age of 84 after a long battle with Alexandria's, was the writer and producer who changed the face of television in the 1980s by creating the primetime soap operas Dallas and Knots Landing. He passed away on Sunday at Providence St. Joseph Medical Center in Burbank. His son, Aaron, told our reporters that he had been battling Alzheimer's over the years and died of complications from a series of infections. Dallas, in its original incarnation, aired for 14 seasons and 357 episodes, starting as a 5-part miniseries in April 1978 before wrapping up in May 1991. It was the #1 show in the Nielsen ratings after its 3rd season and remained highly popular throughout its run.
When people think of Dallas, they tend to think of two things. Who Shot JR and, hey, wasn't there a season that was like all a dream or something? Mostly younger audiences view this as an old show, best left to boomers and the greatest generation with their Applebee's, their racism, and their not knowing what avocado toast is. But in 2020, a time when we've regurgitated so much of 1980s popular culture already, the wheelings and dealings of a clan of wealthy oil barons can help us understand a lot about the cultural imprint that affects our view of capitalism to this day. For those who don't already know, Dallas was a primetime soap opera that aired on CBS from 1978 to 1991. Most of its inspiration seems to draw from the 1956 film Giant, starring Rock Hudson, Elizabeth Taylor, and James Dean in his last role. Dallas's first season was a 5-part miniseries that aired in April and May of 1978, and wasn't intended to become a full series. CBS was so pleased, though, that they ordered a second season to start the following fall, and the series would continue for another 13 seasons. The show initially focused on Bobby Ewing and his new bride Pamela returning home to the family's palatial estate, South Fork. The Ewings built their empire when oil magnate Jock Ewing married cattle princess Ellie Southworth, and the two families combined their fortunes. Jock's son, John Ross Ewing Jr., or JR for short, is the eldest and the one most people associate with the TV show. JR is married to former Miss Texas Sue Ellen, though he keeps several regular women on the side. Bobby and JR's middle brother, Gary, couldn't deal with the hypermasculine ways the Ewings conduct business, so he hit the bottle and ran off, leaving his daughter Lucy to be raised by his parents and siblings. Complicating matters is that Pamela is the daughter of Jock Ewing's old partner and fiercest rival, Digger Barnes, who claims that Jock swindled him out of half the oil fortune. And her brother Cliff is a lawyer who has practically declared war on the Ewings. The series tends to follow two overlapping threads, one about the shady business dealings of Ewing Oil, and the other more conventional soap opera fodder. The show ranked 47 on TV Guide's list of the greatest series of all time, and the episode in which JR's shooter is revealed drew 350 million viewers, about 3 times the most watched Super Bowl. The show was also a critical success, earning 4 Emmys. Like most successful series, it spawned a bevy of knockoffs and one spin-off, none of which saw the same success as the original. The show was rebooted by TNT in 2012 and ran for 3 seasons before cost and declining ratings led to its cancellation. What started as Romeo and Juliet, but with oil, quickly morphed into King Lear, but with oil, when Larry Hagman's J.R. Ewing became the most compelling character for audiences. Fans either got a kick out of JR's Machiavellian antics, or they wanted to see him get his comeuppance. But either way, they were drawn to him. Of course, like all shows that span the entirety of a decade, Dallas had trouble keeping up with the times, and by the time the recession hit in the late 1980s, people were worn out of opulence. And maybe that has contributed to the following generation's willingness to leave it in the dustbin of history. But its most endearing trait may be acting as such a distinct and clear simulacrum of America. America and Dallas were so synonymous in the 1980s that the Smithsonian Museum of American History actually has a replica of JR's hat. And in one of the more bizarre stories of world history, Dallas may have precipitated the downfall of communism in the Eastern Bloc. You see, Romanian President Nicolae Ceausescu thought that Dallas was such an indictment of Western capitalism that he allowed the show to be aired in his country for propaganda purposes. It was one of the only American shows allowed on Romanian media at the time. In a move that monumentally backfired for Ceausescu, the Romanian people so loved the Ewing capers that capitalism became popular and, in part, it led to the Romanian Revolution of 1989. I say monumentally backfired in that Ceausescu and his wife were caught trying to flee the country and were executed by firing squad on Christmas Day. So give it a whirl if you like soapy melodrama and or pop culture snapshots of peak capitalism, and you have the time and or money. Seasons and individual episodes are available on YouTube, Amazon, and Vudu.
I don't know if I can summarize Dallas because I've never quite understood it. It just was the right show for a specific era in American history with some wonderful characters and some terrific actors playing the parts that captured the world's imagination as no show had ever done before.
Dallas was bigger than life, I suppose, to give you a big overview. It was Texas, it was the 80s, it was the Reagan era. Everything bigger than life. Shoulder pads, hairdos, jewelry, cars, the whole thing.
Dallas was a show about family, and we can all relate. We all have family.
How do you stand on this?
You don't have to ask, Vaughn. The Ewings are a family.
It was a very wealthy family, hard-working family, hard-drinking family, and it was about all the relationships.
Hagman was sort of the leader of the parade when it came to Dallas. We all took our cues off of him after the first season, and he was the undisputed central figure on the show.
J.R. Ewing. I said, well, he's the eldest, and he's taken on all the responsibility of the family, and he's increased the worth of the riches of the family 50-fold, and his father still likes his little brother best. And the actor was happy with that, and he said, well, how are we going to make him more sympathetic? And I kind of looked at the others in the room, and they said, go ahead. I said, well, I don't think we are. I think what he's discovered is that he likes being bad.
I don't have anything to apologize for. And the explanation is very simple. You gambled and you lost.
Now, he would never admit that he likes being bad. He thinks that way. He thinks you screw them before they screw you. That's how the world works. That's how business works. But he's really creative at it.
Well, I figure your share ought to be about $500,000 a year. Harry, this is what I want you to do. Close down that field. That's right. Shut down every single well.
And so since every time he outsmarts somebody, he thinks of himself as outsmarting somebody who would have outsmarted him, taken advantage of him, he gets great pleasure out of it. And then what Larry Hagman did is take that and really make it lusty. He just loved being bad.
Are you trying to flatter me or insult me? I can't make out which.
Well,
This. Knots Landing is a spin-off of the massive 1980s cultural touchstone Dallas, and while it never really hit the zeitgeist at Who Shot JR levels, it did last longer and maintain quality in its own low-key way for several seasons. The show centers on Gary and Valene Ewing, outcasts from the Dallas Ewing family who are just trying to put their lives together. Gary is an alcoholic whose father was an old-school taskmaster, and his older brother is a low-grade narcissist with a penchant for ruining people's lives.
Well, that's my favorite sister-in-law.
Despite being the black sheep of the family, Gary formed a very strong bond with his mother Ellie, and she purchased a house in the cookie-cutter development project known as Knots Landing as a wedding gift to help Gary get a leg up. And that's where we are now. A lot of the pilot episode is remixed ideas from the Dallas miniseries. We have an awkward newlywed couple who is unsure about their living situation, especially the wife. We have a willful and unruly teenage daughter who needs to be tamed by a show of love. And we have a big ensemble waiting on deck to get more depth. Safe to say this one hit the ground running and crushed it in the first episode. The interesting choice was having Val and Gary mostly recede into being background players in favor of introducing us to the Fairgates and their problems. And it worked! Of course, Valene and Gary get their moments too, but this is the Sid and Karen show for the opening episode.